In the eerie story, The Horrifying Last Minutes of Caleb Moore, we explore the daring expedition of this ATV and snowmobile phenomenon. Caleb's journey from dominating Texas quad racing to pushing the envelope at the Winter X Games takes a terrible turn during an audacious stunt. The script describes the terrifying moments that resulted in irrevocable repercussions as he tried a tsunami flip, bringing Caleb's extraordinary life to an abrupt end at the age of 25. On August 28, 1987, in Fort Worth, Texas, Caleb Moore was born. He had a fearless spirit and enjoyed taking big chances even at a young age. This characteristic was made abundantly evident when Caleb, then only 4 years old, amazingly scaled a 10-foot television antenna on the exterior of their home. With no one else nearby to help, his mother frantically inquired as to whether he could descend again. She was filled with both fear and wonder. Caleb just gave a serene nod before beaming broadly and exclaiming, "Look at what I did," to his mother. A few years later, Caleb's father bought 3 ATVs, or quads, to strengthen the bonds within the family, and picture peaceful weekends spent riding through the forest trails close to Crum. At first, the family used the quads for what they were meant to do, take leisurely rides around nearby ranches and trails. That being said, neither Caleb nor his brother were very fond of the slow pace, and before long, they were driving these four-wheelers to their absolute limits, discovering their entire potential and becoming passionate about racing. And it was clear right away how well-versed in quad racing Caleb was. In a few years, he had accumulated nearly every prize available in the Texas Quad Racing Association. His victories included second place at the Texas Motor Speedway and first place in Mosier Valley in 2001 and 2003. Having won every season in every sport, Caleb said he had to play for the Nationals because he had a clear vision for his future. To focus on ATV racing, he graduated from high school early. After some family debate at the kitchen table, they decided to use his college funds to support his racing ambitions. They spent $88,000 on a semi-truck cab and $20,000 on an enclosed trailer to get ready for his first national competition. Caleb's initial foray into the national events saw him securing positions like 7th, 9th, and 11th. The problem, however, wasn't ability, it was equipment. Many kids on the circuit already had sponsor companies that provided them with top-tier gear. Luckily, it didn't take long before B.C. Vaught, a keen observer of talent, noticed him at an event in Minnesota. Vaught was quick to recognize Caleb's potential, signing him up for roles in action sports movies, with Vaught eventually becoming Caleb's agent. Shortly thereafter, Caleb's career took a dynamic turn as he featured in several of Huo's freestyle movies produced by Bomb Films and toured with the Crusty Demons of the Dirt Tour, as well as performed in X Nights Fox shows. In his first attempts at competing nationally, Caleb placed 7th, 9th, and 11th. But rather than a skill, the issue was equipment. Numerous young athletes on the circuit were already sponsored by firms that gave them top-notch equipment. Fortunately, B.C. Vaught, a talented observer, caught wind of him at a Minnesota event in no time. Vaught soon realized Caleb had talent and signed him up for parts in action sports films before becoming Caleb's agent. Caleb's career soon took a dramatic change when he appeared in many of Huo's Bomb Films, produced freestyle flicks, joined the Crusty Demons of the Dirt Tour, and performed in X Nights Fox concerts. As one of the rare few who could regularly perform a backflip on a quad, Caleb traversed the world, wowing audiences with his freestyle motocross skills on his quad. However, an idea struck Caleb one afternoon in 2009 as he and Colton relaxed in their parents' living room, watching the Winter X Games on television. They needed a fresh direction because one of their quad sponsors, Polaris, also made snowmobiles, and it was obvious that ESPN wasn't going to host a tournament for freestyle ATV riders during the Summer X Games. Amazingly, in just 2 weeks, he was able to master the difficult backflip on a snowmobile. This unbelievable speed of skill acquisition was especially noteworthy, given that in 2010, he had only roughly 1 month to train before competing in his inaugural Winter X Games. Ed received a bronze medal in freestyle there as compensation for his efforts. And Caleb's remarkable talent and determination were demonstrated by his swift assimilation and success in competition snowmobiling. Over the following few years, fans, event planners, and sponsors paid close attention to brothers' feats, most notably after they executed a synchronized backflip in 2011. Bronze went to Caleb. ESPN noted his progress in freestyle in 2011 and 2012, saying on his profile that he had gone from beginner's luck to a genuine threat. Just 1 week before the 2013 X Games, Caleb was overflowing with ideas. He mentioned that he had a show in Michigan on a sled the following weekend, then a week off before spending a month traveling to Argentina, France, Russia, and back before heading back to the United States. On Tuesday, he left for home, and on Wednesday, he flew to France for a quad show. Fate, however, had other ideas. During the 17th Winter X Games in Colorado, which took place from January 24 to 27, 2013, watchers can see athletes defying gravity, spinning, flipping, and flying through the air against the stunning Colorado Rockies backdrop, hours before the January 24th Snowmobile freestyle competition. At the age of 19, Caleb did his first backflip on an ATV near Crum, Texas, a memory he cherished. Caleb declared, "It was the most thrilling moment of my life. Also my life's most anxious, heart-pounding time as well." But what was ahead of him had been far worse than this. Massive ramps that could propel snowmobilers over 100 feet in the air were part of the planned event. With a range of gravity-defying jumps and backflips being a spectator favorite, competitors had 75 seconds to execute risky variations, such as relinquishing the handlebars or momentarily freezing mid-air with the snowmobile overhead. But it didn't take long to realize that the snowmobiling activities that weekend were riskier. There were only 4 contestants left at the end of the 8-person competition. After just 4 hours on a snowmobile, rookie Australian rider Jackson crashed because the throttle stuck, sending the vehicle hurtling toward onlookers. A teenage spectator was hurt, but thankfully was released after receiving treatment thanks to the intervention of a fabric fence that prevented a more serious incident. But the night was far from done, and Caleb was counting down the hours until his turn in the spotlight. His practice runs in the previous weeks had been erratic at times, and as he honed his skills for the competition, he had crashed several times. His back hurt, and his body was damaged by these unusual falls. But Caleb never seemed to let his blunders bother him. He was focused on pushing himself to the maximum and winning his first gold medal at the X Games, the year's most important event for him. He appeared to be as prepared as ever as he straddled his sled, revved his motor, and pulled on the throttle. Caleb's amazing tsunami indie flip served as his grand finale. He would approach the ramp and do the flip right away. He would find himself hanging behind the sled, swinging off the handlebars as it flipped upside down. He intended to skillfully extend his legs to the side and rotate the snowmobile back into position at that crucial moment. Because there is little margin for error and a large distance between the rider's torso and the sled, this move is regarded as one of the hardest in freestyle. This technique, which is referred to as a cod flip or kiss of death in the sport, was Caleb's daring, show-stopping finish that was sure to amaze the judges. Having executed these flips numerous times previously, Caleb was sure that it was simply another day at the office. However, as soon as he took off and began to maneuver his 450 LB snowmobile in the sky, pulling for the flip, it was obvious that something was missing. In an attempt to finish the rotation, incorrect Caleb, who was now dangling beneath his sled, kicked his legs and depressed the throttle, but the sled was unable to complete the turn. Caleb was slammed squarely in the chest by the machine's nose when its front ski tips turned over, After realizing that the tsunami flip attempt had failed, his body bounced and fell down the slope, rolling and flipping for a few feet before stopping. With his arms and legs spread wide like a snow angel on a mountaintop, he lay there with his face facing up. He lay motionless in the snow and received prompt medical attention from the medical personnel. After being rendered unconscious in the collision, Caleb was fortunate enough to recover consciousness approximately 30 seconds later, discovering his father and brother, who had been getting ready for their turn, surrounding him. The medical professionals started probing him right away to determine how he was doing. "Are you familiar with your name? Are you aware of your location? Are you aware of what just transpired?" Caleb answered every inquiry with complete awareness of the circumstances. He knew exactly what had happened, and he believed that he had just lost out on yet another fantastic chance to win a medal. Lying in the snow, he told his father how frustrated he was. "I was on a fantastic run when I had to make that one last jump mess it up." Caleb eventually began to regain his strength after some time. He arose, stood, and started to move away from the slope in the direction of the medical tent for a more thorough assessment. He told everyone he was all right and that he didn't feel any pain even though his condition was unstable and he needed his father's arm to support him. But Colton, his brother, realized that something wasn't quite right. However, he had to concentrate on getting ready for his run because the event was still going on. However, as Colton braced himself, a worrying thing happened. When Caleb passed out in the medical tent, the medical staff immediately put him on a stretcher and hurried him into an ambulance, where they determined he had suffered a concussion, an ailment that was not new to Caleb. He estimated that he had experienced roughly 10 concussions in the past in a pre-race interview with the New York Times. When he was brought to Aspen Valley Hospital for treatment, there was not much cause for alarm. A tragic turn of events saw Colton Moore's maiden run end badly on the same landing ramp 30 minutes later. His snowmobile made a hard landing on its back edge when he performed a back flip rotation. After the crash threw Colton off his back, he was also strapped onto a gurney and driven to Aspen Valley Hospital in an ambulance with his brother. To us, this is nothing new. Following the separate ambulance rides of his two sons to the hospital, their father, Wade Moore, made a statement. "We joked around and he later revealed, 'I was going to roll up next to him and be like, hey man, I couldn't leave you hanging. But when I saw him, they had drugged him so I couldn't speak to him. Why isn't he awake?' was all I could think of, particularly after observing him go and assuming he was right." After receiving a diagnosis of a split pelvis at the hospital, Colton was released the next day. But Caleb's circumstances were worse. While he was in the hospital, his blood pressure started to fluctuate dangerously. The force of the snowmobile had caused internal bleeding around his heart, which the physicians discovered. His heart rate increased to 155, 162, and finally 177 beats per minute, which was dangerous. Because of the seriousness of his condition, Jacob had emergency heart surgery and was transported to St. Mary's Hospital in Grand Junction, Colorado. Sadly, bad weather caused his transfer to be delayed by over 6 hours. Shortly after coming, Caleb went into a 20-minute respiratory arrest that caused irreparable brain damage. He never recovered consciousness, and in the days that followed, he showed no symptoms of getting better. In conclusion, the extreme sports community was enthralled by Caleb Moore's unwavering attitude and incredible trip. His unwavering quest for victory, from ATV races to the Winter X Games main arena, exemplifies his legacy of tenacity and ardor. But the horrific event that took place on that fateful day serves as a sobering reminder of the inherent dangers these sportsmen must contend with. Get more gripping tales that pay tribute to the people who go above and beyond in the realm of sports by subscribing.